Hi there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a notification system the correct way. For example, you can create a form in which you can add your notification content. So I can add something like, and I can add an expiration date, select the time, and whatever I need to select here, and select submit. Once I do that, I can refresh the page after the notification is added, and I can see the notification added here. But there is something else I can do without refreshing, and that is to tick off the notification item as read. When I tick off a notification item as read, you can see here that it just disappears from the listing just like that. And the number of notifications left updates accordingly. If I tick off this one too, you see that it just updates accordingly. Now in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do just that in the right way. Here's my advice. Take off your seatbelt because this is going to be a smooth ride. Now, let's start from the very beginning. Without writing any line of code, you can get this all to work. First, you need to create a CCT. Now, a CCT is a custom content type, and it's specific to JetEngine, and we're going to talk about it in a bit. Next, you need to create a JetFormBuilder form. And the form, the entire reason for creating the form is just to have something in the front end through which you can create all of the notification items. You can customize the form to your heart's content. You can get the form to do whatever you need it to do, like sending emails or doing whatever else you intended to do from the front end, and that is the purpose of installing JetFormBuilder. Next, you have to create a query, and the query is a query of the CCT. Next, you need to create a data store, which will store, technically, all of the notification items that a user has read. Now you also need to add all the notification items to a dropdown, as I previously demonstrated to you, and then you need a way to reload the notifications without refreshing the entire page. You want to do all this without touching a single line of code. So let's see how to do it. Now I'll start by letting you know all of the plugins I used in creating the functionality. I used Elementor, which is the page builder of my choice for this particular demo. Sometimes I can choose to use Bricks Builder. Please keep in mind that if you use the Bricks Builder, you can also do exactly the same thing, just as you would do if you would use the Gutenberg editor or whatever else you want to make use of. As far as it supports JetEngine, you can get this done. You can replicate it using any page builder of your choice, but I'm going to use Elementor to demo this. Also, I have JetElement for Elementor installed. This particular plugin only has the purpose of creating the drop-down functionality for us. If we come to the front end, you would see that is what it does here. That's all. Now we have JetEngine, which is the pillar of everything we need to get done here, because every single thing we did is mostly tied in some way to JetEngine. We have JetFormBuilder, as I've explained before, for the front-end forms, and these two plugins are just installed on the site for no particular reason, so please, you can leave them uninstalled if you so desire. Now just keep in mind that when you install JetEngine, there are certain modules that you need to install, and I'm going to show you those now. If you come inside of JetEngine, right here, the first item on the list, you have modules here. You need to toggle on the following modules. If you use Elementor, toggle on dynamic visibility. If you use Bricks, you just need to make use of the inbuilt functionality to show or hide items based on certain properties. So keep that in mind. For Gutenberg, you also want to turn on dynamic visibility. Next, you want to toggle on custom content type, regardless of your builder, and toggle on data stores, regardless of your builder. When you're done toggling these three on, you need to just hit on save, and you are done in this page. Now, we're ready for the first step, create a CCT. You want to do that by coming here to custom content types and click on this. Let's add a new CCT, and we're going to call this CCT notification or site notification. Let's call it what we want. We're going to leave everything else as is, except we're going to add a new field, and two fields in particular. Field number one is notification content. So this will hold the content of the notification, and because the object type is a field and this is a text area, which we just selected right now, we're done with that. We'll close that out and add a new field. Now this new field is going to add an expiration date to the notification content. So we're just going to type expiration date. Done. Not done. We're going to select under field type. We're going to scroll down here to date time because, of course, we need it to save the particular time of expiration as a date and time. But we also need to ensure absolutely ensure that we save as timestamp. Now, the reason for this is that we need this to be able to be queryable in a way that we can show or hide notification item based on whether the date we have set has passed. So we just want to show items that are not in the past and are still valid to the users. So think a store situation where a person needs to show a coupon for a limited number of days or maybe weeks and wants to show or hide it based on a particular date period. So you select the expiration date there and you're done. And once you're done with that and you close this and add custom content type and it refreshes, you see a new item on the right here that says create new form. And that takes us to step number 2, creating the JetFormBuilder form. All you need to do is click on create new form and you have a new page that loads with 2 important things. One, it has both fields here already in the form, the notification content, which as you can see is a text area field, and also the expiration date, which you can see is a date time field. It makes absolute sense this way. It has also done something else. It's created a form submit action for us, which we're going to modify just a little bit so that it does exactly what we needed to do. Let's edit that action. And we see it's already connected to the content type we created, which is the site notification. We need to change the item status to publish because some notifications are going to be draft and we don't want to show that in the front end. So we want to make sure it's published. Next, we want the field to be mapped like so. It's already done for us. Notification content to notification content, expiration date to expiration date, mapped exactly this way to these 2 fields and the back end. It makes a ton of sense this way. So we're just going to leave everything else as is. We're not going to go too crazy with the form because we want to keep it as simple as possible so everyone can understand the points here. Let's make one last tweak to this form. Let's come down here, scroll down here to general message settings and just change the form successfully submitted message here to something else. We can call this notification. That's a bad spelling. Let's spell again. If I can spell, notification added. So now we're going to hit save. Now we're done. We've created the form. We've created the CCT. They're both connected together clearly. Now the next step is that we need to create a query. Now, let's come down here to Query Builder. And this is the part that usually makes people a little uncomfortable, but I'll make it easy for you, okay? Just click on Add New. And let's create our first query to get this done. The query title that we're going to give it is a name of our choice. We'll call it Query of Notifications on Site. I think it's very, very well descriptive, and if you don't think so, I don't know what to tell you. Now, you come down here to query type and you want to select custom content type query. For now, I'm just going to toggle off cache query because sometimes I've experienced issues with the cache in which querying it gives me a wrong result because the cache query thingy is on and I don't want it to cause any problems. So let's just toggle it off for now. Now, from content type, which content type? The only one we need, site notifications. Good. We're going to leave number as is. We need it to show us all the items. We're going to leave the offset as is because we don't need to skip any items. We're going to leave the status as, no, not leave. We're going to change the status to publish. And next, we're going to add a query. Let's leave the order and order by exactly the way it is. By default, it's going to order it by the published date. So we're fine with that. If you're not fine with that, you can tweak around with that. But now we need to set the last option here, which is the query. Now we need to add new, and we're going to add a new query. We need to get the field expiration date. And the comparison is this. We need it to be greater or equal to what? Now, to understand what we need to do here, you need to think of it this way. First, when a notification is created, the expiration date, the date the notification becomes invalid, is already set in this field called expiration date. We want to make sure that the date stored in the expiration date is greater, that is in the future, or equal, that is on the same day, as what? The value. What value? Now, that is where we make use of a macro called today. So today is going to return this value in timestamp. Remember, when we created the meta field we ensured that we toggled on the timestamp option to make sure that the value stored in the database here as the expiration date is also stored as timestamp so that it can be correctly compared. Now, there is one last thing to do here. You need to set the type of this as a timestamp so that when you do, it correctly compares this value with the value of today. So we're saying it has to be greater than this value or equal to this value today. Okay. Now, next thing, we're going to click on Add Query. We're pretty much done with creating our query here. And once we're done with that, we're going to go right to our next step, which is to create a data store. To create a data store, just come back into JetEngine. Once we're in JetEngine on the JetEngine dashboard, you need to click on Data Stores and click on New Store. The reason for creating the store, just to be clear, is to have the users be able to save or mark some items of the notifications as read. We need them to mark it as read because we don't want to show users notification items they've already read, right? Already read, already read, already read? I'm doing good. So let's create the name. The name here would be read notifications. Slug is fine. We don't need to change anything. We don't need it to be cookies. We don't need it to be session. And the reason for this is that these are very easily clearable from the user's browser and the data will be lost when these things are cleared. We don't need that. We also do not need it as a local storage or user IP because all of this can change. We need it as user metadata because when a user marks a notification as read, then it is associated. That read action is associated with the particular user profile. So user metadata absolutely works for this. Next, you want to leave the mark size as 0 because you don't want any limit to the amount of items a user can mark as read, right? Good. I don't want to count items. We can leave it the way it is. I don't want to toggle is user store on because this is not a store for user IDs. This is a store for CCTs. So it only makes sense to come down to the last option and toggle on is custom content type store. We're going to have to select the custom content type, set it to the content type, which is site notifications, and click on save. There's one last step you need to keep in mind after creating the data store, and that is this. That after you do that, you need to come to custom content type, click on it, edit the particular custom content type that you just created a data store for, which is site notification, and you need to come here and click again on save. The reason for this is to let the system know that the data store was just created for this particular custom content type. This way, it gets to work flawlessly. We click on updates and we're good to go. Content type updated, we're ready. And that was creating the data store. Next, we want to add notifications to the dropdown. Recall that in the front end, we have this dropdown here created with Jet Elements. Just so we can have a picture of how it looks, we can come to the edit page here and we have this particular widget, which is the drop bar widgets right here. Let's introduce you to this in case you're not familiar with this already. Now, if you come down here to the content, you have different content types for this. You can use a simple text, WYSIWYG, or a template. I prefer to use a template for this because I'll be able to add in there whatever I need to make this drop bar look exactly the way I want it to. So let's select template. Right now, there is no template to select from because, of course, we've not created any template yet. We just want to publish that. And we want to come back to the back end here and create a new template, just something like a wrapper to hold all of the notification items in. So we're creating a new template right now. Now, we're here on the saved templates page and we want to add a new template. Keep in mind that if you make use of JetBuilder for this, you also want to do exactly the same thing. If you use Gutenberg, you also want to do the same thing. You want to create a template and you want to select here, instead of selecting any other type, you can select a container. I believe JetBuilder has that too. And you want to give it any name of your choice. Now, let's call it wrapper for notifications, holding, listing. Just want to make it as explicit as possible so if I come back in the next 5 years, I can understand exactly what I did here. Let's create the template. Now inside this wrapper container, I just need to add a new container. And inside the container, and come to layout, and everything else can stay exactly the way it is. We can set the width to be something else, maybe something as small as, let's call it 500 pixels, just so we can have a visual representation of how this will look in the front end. Once we're done, we can hit publish. There's pretty much nothing much to be done here yet. Next, we want to create our listing item. And to create the listing item, we already are on this page, the JetEngine and listing stroke components page, as you can see here. We need to add a new listing item. Now I can add new listing item, and the listing source will be query builder, and the query will be the query we just created, which is the query of notifications on site. We can call this listing whatever we want to call it. Let's call it listing of notifications. And click on create listing item. We're not going to have anything show here because we don't even have any sample data created. So let's come back a bit to the dashboard, and let's come down here to the site notifications we previously created, the CCT. Now let's add a new item, and we can call this whatever we want. We can add whatever data we want to add here. Let's call the notification content the following: subscribe to my YouTube channel, and this notification is for you. You absolutely have to do it. Also, turn on the notification bell. Great. Have you done it? You done it yet? Good. We can go on. Now we can come to expiration date, and we can set the expiration date in the future as the 18th. That's tomorrow. And the hour, we can drill it down to 9 a.m. and that's fine. We can click on done and click on add. We'll create another one, and we can call it again whatever we want. Have it show, and we're gonna set the dates 20th of September and add. Great. Now we have data to work with. We can very easily now add items to this particular listing because we're working right now with the listing. So to make it look exactly how it would in the front end, or at least simulate the look a bit, we're gonna add the preview width, and we're going to make this 500, just like we said it before, so it looks something close. And we're going to add in here a container. Next, we're going to add dynamic widgets to this. So we're just going to search for dynamic field. We're going to grab, first of all, the source remains the way it is. The object field, we're going to scroll down to the particular CCT content type of notifications, site notifications we created here. We're going to select the creation date, the created date. You see it here? That's the date the CCT was created. It looks great. Not yet, not very great, because we needed to show something like 5 hours ago or 20 seconds ago, or, you know, all of that nice stuff. To make it show that way, let's just scroll down a bit here to filter field output. We're going to toggle that on. On the callback, we're going to scroll down. In fact, without scrolling, we're just going to type human readable time difference. Now, again, if you use either Bricks Builder or Gutenberg to accomplish this, the setup is exactly the same. Now, human readable time difference shows 2 minutes. 2 minutes what? We're going to come down to customize field output and type ago just after the placeholder here. So it says 2 minutes ago. Nice, makes sense. Let's just add a little bit of styling. We're never going to make use of pixel values ever, but let's make use of rem values so it can be nice, it can be responsive and also accessible. We're going to talk about that in a different video. If you want to see more about that, just let me know in the comment section below. If you're understanding this already, please give it a thumbs up. By the way, again, my name is Toby Salami. I'm a web developer, and this is what I do for a living. My entire purpose of having this channel is to teach you how to build dynamic websites without doing too much. If this is something you like, please be sure to subscribe, and also do me a favor and hit that like button so others get to see it too. Next, you need to add another dynamic field, if I can spell, dynamic field. We're going to add another one, and this one is going to hold particularly the notification content. So we're going to leave the source as is. We're going to come to object field, scroll all the way down here to notification content, and it shows the latest one. Nice. And lastly, we're going to have a checkmark icon that the user can click on and say, hey, I've read that notification, I'm done with it, you can hide it now. And we're going to add that right now by clicking on add element, and next we're going to click on check. check mark. No, not that icon. Just keep in mind, not that one. So we're going to type Datastore because we have it stored as a data store. Next, you need to click on Red Notifications, which is the particular store that we already created for this purpose. We want the users to be able to add an item to their store if they have read the notification. To do that, we're going to leave the label. In fact, we're going to remove it because we don't need to type it in manually. We're going to add an icon. I already have something uploaded here. We're just going to put this in here in set media. It looks awful, but it works for now. Next, we have action after an item added to store. Hide button. We just want to remove that after the item is added to the store. I'm not going to teach how to do the styling of this, so let me just make it look a bit decent. It's decent, doesn't look that great, but it's for demonstration purposes here. We're going to publish this, and now it's time to put it inside our dropdown. Remember how we called it? We called it wrapper, something like that. Yeah, wrapper for notifications. We're going to click on that, and we see the template is inside of here. There's absolutely nothing inside of it, so we're just going to click to edit the template there. In the meantime, we're going to hit publish just so we don't lose changes here, and come inside the wrapper and see how we can add the listing items here. In this wrapper, we're going to need to select the listing grid widget. Listing grid. We're going to drag this in here. You do it the same way in Bricks, same way in Gutenberg, works the same. We're going to select the listing, and the listing, of course, is the notification listing we created previously. Listing of notifications. We're going to set the columns number to 1 so it shows this way. I'm sure you're wondering how it's 14 minutes and 16 minutes ago. It's not been that long since we created it, right? It's been that long for me, my friend. That's the magic of video post-production editing. And here we are. Let's go. Now, once we have this created and we come to the front end, if we refresh this, we want to see how the notification works in the front end here. And checking this, we see nothing. Why? Because of the fact that we've not published it, so we're going to hit publish. And we're going to come to the front end again after, of course, it's been published. And let's refresh and see what happens now. Inside the notifications here, we have 2 items, and it looks absolutely amazing for now. Now we need the following to happen. We need to be able to mark it as red and have it disappear. But before that, let's add the form we created to the front end, shall we? Now we're going to add the JetFormBuilder form here by just simply removing this widget we have as a placeholder. We're going to search for JetForm. We're going to drag in that widget here. Please keep in mind this is going to be exactly the same way whether in Bricks or in Gutenberg. Same way, which is the add new site notifications item. That's the form we have right here. Now, we're going to have to style this just a little bit so it looks a little less awful. And once we're done styling, we can go ahead with this. We're going to have to leave the rest of it as awful as it looks and just click on publish. Now let's come to the front end and add a new notification and see how it looks here. So we're just going to add a notification and call it hello there. Get products at half its price. Use the coupon 33 Toby. And we're going to add the expiration date. We can just click on this icon. It's not that visible, but it's there, trust me. And we can select a date in the future, a time in the future, and hit submit. And now it's created it. It refreshed the page, and I don't like that it refreshed. We can edit the form and edit the form settings here and change the submit type to AJAX, just so it doesn't have to reload the page each time. However, let's check our notifications and see what we have here. Good. 47 seconds ago, we have this created here. And that's nice. All well and good. The form is working. The notification is being created. Now we want to be able to mark it as read and have it disappear from this list without reloading the page. But we also need one extra thing. We want to make sure that the count of the notification is also visible. We want to be able to see, okay, there are 4 notifications, there are 5, there are 10, whatever number there is. We want to see that here. We're going to do something a little different. Let's come into the listing item here. Why the listing item, you may ask? You'll find out in a bit. Now, we're going to add a new dynamic field here. We're just going to add, maybe not a dynamic field. Let's add a heading widget. Let's just drag it in here to the top. And let's put this as a div. Let's change the style so it doesn't look as awful as it does. Let's just make this a bit darker, a little darker. And in the content, we're going to use the dynamic tag. In Gutenberg, it's called the same way too. And it's called query results count. We're going to select the query. And we're going to leave it as total query results count. It works. Next, you want to come to advanced and write something after. You want to say something like 3 notifications on red. And that will make sense, except that once we publish this and come to the front end, we have the same notifications on red message in the 3 notifications, and we don't want that. And that is the reason why we install dynamic visibility, because now we can select that item and come to advanced, that particular widget, come to advanced, come to dynamic visibility, enable that, and we're going to show the item on the condition that this is an item. What's an item? The an item is simply asking, which item in the list of this listing do you want this particular widget to show? And I want it to show in the first one, so I'm going to type in the number 1. And that's it. Now, if I publish and come back again to the front end and just let's see how it displays now in the front end, we see that the notification item shows only in the first one. To confirm, let's hover. There it is. It only shows in the first item on this list. And the reason why we need it inside the listing is going to take us to the last step on this list. Handle notifications reload. We want to reload this so smoothly that it doesn't have to do a full page reload. We want to be able to click on mark as read and have these entire notifications reload without reloading the entire page. To do that, let's come back into our query and do a little bit of tweak to it. Let's select the query of notifications on site. And once we have that query selected, we want to modify the query inside of it. And the only thing we need to add here is a specification saying, and I quote from the heart of the query, that when I add some item to the data store, I need you not to show this anymore inside this query. And speaking in query terms, that simply means select the field item ID, which is of course what's being stored in the data store, and compare that and say that it should not be in the list of what. Now we're going to use this icon here and select data store. We're just going to type in, not data store. I think it's called store. Good. We're going to select get store and select the particular store, red notifications. Apply, and we're done. We're saying essentially that any item that you're about to query should not be in the list of things that the user has marked as read. And so when we update this query and come to the front end, we see that every single item just after we reload remains the exact same way they were. All 3 items still exist because there is still one more thing we need to do to the listing. Now we're going to come back into the store. We're just going to select the data store button and we're going to come here to reload listing grid and success, toggle that on, and we're going to select the listing grid ID. Let's type in whatever we choose to type in here. So call this whatever listing. Now we're going to copy that and we're going to publish this. And we're going to come back inside this edits page, the edits page for the wrapper, and we're going to put that thing on the particular widget. This widget of the listing, of course, that's what we're selecting now. We're going to come to the advanced. You do the same thing in Gutenberg or Bricks Builder, and we're going to select the CSS ID here. We're going to publish that. We're going to come back again into the front end, and we're going to refresh. Now, once we've added the CSS ID to the listing grid of the notifications here, and we've also specified that inside here, in order to reload the listing grid on success, we just need to click on this to test it out. So for the first one, let's say I have read this and I agree. Yeah, great. Get the product for half its price. Yes. And now here's what happens. The listing grid is reloaded, and as you can see, the notifications has adjusted. There are 2 notifications on red now, and we have just 2 on the list. Let's click it again to try it out. And there you have it. As simple as that. Now you have a way to show all of your notifications on the site. There is no way I'm going to remove this here because this is something that you have to be notified to do. So subscribe to my YouTube channel, also turn on the notification bell, and I'll be sure to come back with a part 2 of this particular tutorial if you request for it in the comment section below. If you have any questions or concerns or anything else, I'll be glad to know in the comment section below. If you need to see something else relating to Bricks Builder, Elementor, JetEngine, or any of the Crocoblock suite of tools, or anything else in the dynamic world of WordPress, let me know in the comment section below and I'll be sure to check it out. My name is Toby Salami once again, and until next time, stay dynamic.